You just tuned it in. Global and worldwide. Hitting you on the one with no delay. Because it's the fighter's voice. The fighter's voice. With your fighting host, Richard Ortiz. And the formidable co-host, Mr. Cole Escovedo. Remember, every fighter has a voice.
Fresno, California. We're live here in Fresno, California, Mad Productions Studios. Today's guest, we have the one, the only. Everybody knows about this man. He's very vital, very important. He'll be working the championship corner to the Senator Manny Pacquiao's big fight this Saturday, MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, before we go on, let me tell you a little something about this man. Not only is he a corner man, he'll put you in the corner, make sure you're good to go, and also arrest you in the corner. He's also a detective. He's also an actor. He's also a gym rat. I mean, the man is just constantly living in the gym, living in his work, and is just flooded by everything that he loves, and that's the sweet science of boxing. He's been involved in this, I'll say, forever. I'll take a quote from him. Somebody asked him, somebody said, "Congratulations on your work and your success," and he turned around and said, "Yes, thank you. It's only taken 15 years. 15 years of doing something you love, 15 years of being passionate about something, 15 years of dedicating yourself, 15 years of believing in yourself." Enough said. Welcome to the show, Mike. How we doing?
Good, man. I'm happy to be on with you guys, the fighter's voice. I don't even think you introduced me. I don't think nobody even knows my last name in Fresno.
Well, it's Mike the Cutman Rodriguez, or Mr. Rodriguez, / the actor, / the detective, / the ambassador of boxing. How does that sound?
You know what? That's actually pretty good, and I'm happy to be on with all the folks there in Fresno and in the surrounding areas. My grandparents on my father's side are originally from Fowler, so I got deep roots over there in the valley over there.
Well, speaking of deep roots, my man, I mean, you got deep roots in the sweet science of boxing. Let's start right from the get-go, man. How did you get involved in boxing? I was told that you were a former boxer yourself, that you used to lace them up, put your own mouthpiece on, and just getting ready to go. We're looking at a picture right now of you squaring up on a bag.
Yeah, thank God my son took that picture, because he actually made me look good in that picture. You know, my roots go back to the days of, obviously watching fights as a young child. The thrill in Manila. I remember being at my mom's brother's house, my Uncle Joe, with my dad, all my uncles and cousins, and watching the thrill in Manila, sometime around 1975, I believe. My dad took me and my brother to the gym, probably when I was 10 years old. I fought off and on. I had ambitions of possibly becoming a pro. And I decided on a career in law enforcement, which was a little tough for me in the beginning because, I really wanted to turn professional. And looking back in hindsight, when I look back at what these fighters go through and the dedication that they have, I know that I made my choice, and I didn't make my mark as a fighter, but I'm happy now that maybe I can make a mark, as a cut man and a trainer to help fighters, get from one fight to another and from round to round.
Well, you're sitting in a very important hot seat, I would say, because you're going to determine if the fight's going to continue. Sometimes you're going to hear news from the referee and saying, you know what, that bleeding doesn't stop, the fight is over. So now you have a man's career in your hands. God's gifted you with the art form, the patience, and all the attributes that you need to perform, as well as on the clock, on the hot seat, whatever the case may be. You're calm, you keep your composure, and the rest is just muscle memory and professionalism. Talk to us about that.
Well, actually, you're right when you say a cut man's on the hot seat. Every time that fighter walks up those steps and goes between those ropes, the fighter, the trainers, the cut man, everybody puts their reputation on the line, and it's a very cutthroat business. Just from the media's perspective, it's a very cutthroat business, and there may be people that look like they're happy for your success, but there's also going to be people that wish they were in your position. With that said, I respect the craft. You only got less than a minute to perform your work up there to get that fighter for the next round. But a lot goes into it, and like you said, muscle memory. And that muscle memory can only come from working hundreds and hundreds of fights and working thousands and thousands of hours with a lot of different fighters and being in a lot of different situations. So when you are on what you would call the hot seat, you don't have time to think. You have time to react, and you go by the good practices and the good techniques that you use that have worked in other fights, and you just kind of go from there. And of course, the fighter has to do his part. Hopefully, the trauma doesn't get worse, but you have to be prepared for that when he comes back to the corner.
Have you ever been critiqued by another cut man? Have another cut man ever said, "Hey, great job," or just give you that look?
Oh, you know what? Absolutely. And I hope I have time to mention the great mentors and
yes. You know what? I want to hear who inspired you. I want to hear who's complimenting you. I want to hear who's watching you work.
The very first time that I ever spoke with anybody about what a cut man does was probably about a little over 11 years ago. And it was just so happened that I was driving back from some fights in Fresno.
There you go.
When I was in the car driving back, cut man David Martinez from Southern California, who ironically was Manny's cut man his last fight. He's worked with De La Hoya, he worked with Shane Mosley. All these years I never paid attention to what a cut man did. And we started talking, and it really piqued my interest because I know that my job as a full-time homicide detective in Los Angeles, I couldn't be in the gym the way I wanted to, like other trainers could with their fighters. I had a job, I have a career. So I started dabbing at the very lower levels about being a cut man. And it just so happens that Stitch Duran was one of my boxing coaches in the Air Force. I was mentored by Joe Chavez, Ruben Gomez, who's a former cut man of Manny Pacquiao, legendary cut man Miguel Diaz, who worked many fights with Manny Pacquiao.
Yes.
Carlos Vargas, who's going to be in the opposite corner with Keith Thurman. And you combine those gentlemen who are legends in the sport that all had a hand in where I'm at today. And I have a great network of some of the other top cutmen in the game. Aaron Navarro from Texas, Mike Basil from up in the Bay Area, Rudy Hernandez, who's a top trainer, top cutman, and works in the UFC, works with many world champions here in LA. And I'm able to kind of break bread with them and talk to them about different things that come up in a fight. But I remember specifically, when I worked the Francisco Vargas El Bandito fight at the Stub Hub with Orlando Salido on HBO. And everybody knows, that Vargas has had numerous traumas to his face. Yeah. And I remember I got him through 2 really bad cuts in that fight with Salido. And I remember when I got back to the dressing room, I had a text from Stitch Duran, and he told me, he says, "Mike, that was some grade A work right there. That was some good shit." And coming from probably the most well-known and renowned cut man that has ever lived, because Jacob Stitch Duran is the one that transcended the modern-day cut man in MMA and boxing out of the Stone Ages. Yeah. And he is a man that respects the craft. And when sometimes if he can't be at a fight, the biggest compliment he could give me is he refers me some work. I did that last fight with Yordenis Ugas,
right, who
fought one of my former fighters, Sean Porter, and I worked that fight. Stitch will be in Ugas's corner on the undercard with Pacquiao, against Omar Figueroa. So although there's a lot of hating going on at the top levels, the guys have a mutual respect. And I'm glad to be a part of that.
It sounds like everybody you mentioned, those are all top guns. It's just like in the NFL, if you start naming all your top quarterbacks or all your top running backs, nothing but respect is there. When you were talking about and mentioning all those names, I started visualizing, can you imagine if everybody was in the garage having a cold one? That conversation, that content would just be awesome right there. Just like you, I'm sure they got stories to tell.
And I had a chance in New York at the Barclays Center. It just so happened that myself, Aaron Navarro, top East Coast cutman Danny Milano, who's worked with many champions, Teddy Lucio, who I forgot to mention, is kind of a contemporary of mine. He works in the UFC. He works with Omar Figueroa.
Okay.
We had a chance to just kind of chop it up. Carlos Vargas as well. And, it was kind of nice that we were all there together. Everybody was working with top fighters. And it's no coincidence. I always tell people this. It's no accident that in boxing you see the same, probably 6 to 7 guys in all the corners, and it's no accident because their work is trusted. They're well respected not only amongst fight people but amongst your peers. You can be well known and liked, by the fans and stuff, but the ultimate compliment is when one of your contemporaries or somebody that's helped mentor you, calls you or sends you a message and says, "Hey, man, great work, much respect." And I think in the end, in any career that anybody does, to be respected by your peers is the ultimate compliment.
What's the biggest compliment you got from a fighter? I mean, where you just kind of said, he looked at you as if to say, "Wow, man, great job. You've given me 2 extra rounds to survive."
I've worked with some notorious bleeders. I mentioned Francisco Vargas, Sergey Lipinets, who's going to be on the card, fighting one of my other old fighters, John Molina. And, of course, in the business of boxing, sometimes you work with fighters and things happen and then you don't. Sergey Lipinets, Sean Porter, and Francisco Vargas were probably 3 of the fighters that I've had to work the most as far as cuts and swelling, where we've been in deep. All of them are very gracious. One thing about fighters, they're very humble. They, for the most part, appreciate their teams. The management appreciates what you do. I've had many conversations with Sergey, with Francisco, and with Sean, about the work that we've gotten through. And I always give credit to them, because in the end, they're the ones that have to stand up each round and go out there for battle each and every round and perform.
Exactly. Hey, I got to throw a question at you. We got a question from Manny Metz from Las Vegas, Nevada. It says, "What was the bloodiest fight you've ever been at that made you question being a cut man, if any?" If any. From Manny Metz, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Manny, the answer to that question is I've never shied away from working with the fighters that suffer the most trauma. I always take it as a badge of honor that the fighters and the trainers and the managers call me. The bloodiest fight, man, I've had so many. I really have had so many. Sean Porter's fights with Kell Brook, his 2 fights with Julio Diaz, with Devin Alexander when he won the title at Barclays Center.
Yeah.
Francisco Vargas when he fought Will Tomlinson in San Antonio, when he fought Orlando Salido. Sergey Lipinets when he fought Kondo to win the title at Barclays Center, and also when he fought Walter Castillo. But let me tell you something. And people thought it was me working the fight. My son actually filled in with me with Lipinets one time when he fought Lenny Zaparignia, and I had the next fight with Julian J. Rock Williams when he fought Charlo, and he was a bloody mess, and everybody kept texting me and calling me saying, "Great job," but I guess my son looked like me from the profile, and that was about 3 or 4 years ago, and he was the one that actually stopped those cuts. And the other one that they assumed it was me was when Abel Ramos fought a Russian on Showtime, and he was a bloody mess, and Andrew, my son, actually got him through the fight. So, we've taken that challenge that we don't mind getting the hard work. There's a lot of guys out there, and I'm not going to mention names because I never hate on anybody, but it's become kind of fashionable. Hey, I'm a cut man. But people are going to, the real boxing people and real fight people, even in MMA, are going to know, who's battle tested and whose work can be trusted, because there's a lot of people out there faking the funk, talking about, "Oh, I'm a cut man and I'm this and I'm that." But in the end, your work product and your work quality is what stands out the most.
Very, very well said. I like the word you used, battle tested. Because everybody's a fighter. Everybody's ready to go in there until they get hit. Everybody's ready to go in there until they get knocked down. Everybody wants to be a champion until they take their first loss. Everybody wants to be at a certain division until it's time to work out and put your work into play. And you said battle tested. Your portfolio is from the who's who. You've gotten compliments from some of the best in the game. You continue to learn. You continue to be a sponge at your craft. And I got to ask you this right now. You mentioned your son about looking like you. And when I bumped into you, the first time I saw you, and I was thinking, is this guy, are we making The Fly Part 3? Because you look like Jeff Goldblum, my man. I mean, have you had that before? And also, you look like that comedian, the tall comedian. I'm losing his name right now. We got to pull his picture up, KP. Mr. Vince Vaughn, yes. When I saw you, I was going, what is going on here? Is this Wedding Crashers going on here? Is this Wedding Crashers that crashed Wild Card Boxing Gym? I mean, what's going on here, my man? I mean, I'm keeping it entertaining because it is what it is. You do look like the man.
There's some stories behind that. I actually
let's hear those stories.
I actually get that a lot because I'm 6'4". Vince Vaughn's about 6'5". I always tell people I'm in much better shape than him, but I have gotten that a lot. The other one with the Wedding Crashers, there's a picture floating around with me and Cutman Mike Basil who kind of looks like the Owen Wilson part.
Oh, there you go.
Took a picture up at Victor Conti's facility up at Snack in San Francisco, and we posted it as the Wedding Crashers, and it was it's pretty
boxing
funny.
crashers. We got to call it boxing crashers.
Yeah, you
boxing crashers right there.
You definitely got to have Mike Basil on.
Oh, let's do it.
He's worked with many world champions, including Nonito Donaire, Danny Jacobs, Demetrius Andrade. He's kind of a utility man in boxing. He's kind of like that. He's kind of like that utility knife that he can do many different things and wear many different hats.
Yeah.
But the other one is Jeff Goldblum. I was actually working an off-duty job where they had to have uniformed police officers at a movie shoot about 20 years ago. And Jeff Goldblum was making a movie called Things You Do in Denver When You're Dead. And there was a scene where they were going to show his deceased brother, but they weren't going to actually show him. And one of the directors looked over while I'm standing there kind of watching them film. And he called Jeff Goldblum over. And then he looked at me and goes, "Hey, this guy looks just like you. We should incorporate him into the movie." But the part wasn't to really show his brother. It was to maybe show like
there you are right there with some long hair, my man. There you are with some long hair and some glasses.
It was touch and go for a minute. I thought I was actually going to have a little part in that, and in the end, it didn't work out. But yes, I have gotten that before.
Hey, that's okay, man. I mean, because when you're there, you are right there, my man. That's you right there. We got to put that Cutman shirt on you. Same hair, same everything, same smile. My gosh, it's like looking in the mirror. I'm sure sometimes, man, if whatever works for you, especially from a distance. The first time I saw you, I was thinking, okay, this guy, is he an actor? Is he a cut man? What's going on? Because when you send some of when I'm looking at that picture right there, I'm thinking, is that a scene from a movie or were you at work?
Which one?
The one you're holding the flashlight and it looks like you're looking at a
that was an actual homicide scene. That was at a officer-involved shooting. And I think a photographer from the LA Times came out and sent that to me. But that was the real live homicide scene that I was investigating probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm a homicide detective and I'm a cut man. And Gabriel Montoya, who's a boxing reporter and an actor himself, dubbed me that I was in the blood business. And it was Joel De La Hoya, Oscar's brother. Who managed people, who's a tremendous friend and just a wealth of knowledge in boxing. And he's somebody that I really admire and trust in the sport.
That's him now?
What was that?
Well, who's that on the screen right there? Oh, that's Jeff Goldblum now. No, you'll kick his ass. Yeah, he's into some weird stuff right there, man. They didn't mean to interrupt your story, man.
So anyway, Joel saw me on the news at a crime scene. And he took a photo and he kind of went viral. And he said, "Hey, Mike Rodriguez, the crime-fighting Cutman, when he's not stopping cuts, he's solving crime." So that kind of stuck from a few years back. And you know what? The best nicknames are not the ones you give yourself. The best nicknames are the ones that other people give you.
Especially, hey, when they come up with them and you accept them. Hey, we're taking a commercial break. Stand by right now. Rich Ortiz, your host of The Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. We're simply knocking out the competition. We're coming right back. Stay tuned. We got more of Mike Rodriguez, the Cutman, coming right back. Please stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Jose. Hi, I'm Robert Garcia, and I'm with The Fighter's Voice.
The only radio show knocking out the competition. Fighter's Voice Radio Show.
I'm Bob Arum, and I'm with The Fighter's Voice.
My name is Andre Ward.
Knocking out the competition.
Fighter's Voice!
The Fighter's Voice.
Hey, Rich Ortiz here. We're back. This is segment number 2, and it's sponsored by Dr. Collision Dental and 900 East Almond Avenue in Madera, California. They could be reached at area code 559-673-2257, or should I say, this smile is sponsored by Dr. Collision Dental. And I'm going to tell you a true story. Last night I was eating some corn nuts and some apples and what have you, and I cracked my tooth. Well, I text my doctor, and I said, "Hey, listen, man, I need my teeth. I need my voice. I need whatever it takes, man, because it's an uncomfortable feeling." He said, "Richard, I'll see you at 7:40 in the morning." So this smile is sponsored by Dr. Collision Dental in Madera, California, 900 East Almond Avenue. And he can be reached at 559-673-2257. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. How to pay the bills, how to plug that right now. We're back. If you're just joining us right now, we got Mike Rodriguez, the cut man, who will be in the championship corner of the Senator of Manny Pacquiao this Saturday, MGM Grand, when he takes on Keith, one-time Thurman. Mike, I got to ask you this, man. First of all, thanks for hanging on with us and putting up with us right here, man. I mean, I got lines blowing up right now, and I got a question.
Hopefully it's nobody that I owe money to.
Well, yeah. Well, the IRS didn't get a hold of us. I think we both owe them a little something, man, because they overcharge us on every single thing. But I hear you there, man. Actually, this question is all the way from New York. It's from Macho Camacho Jr. What goes through a cut man's mind before a fight? Are you just hanging around waiting for a cut, or are you pacing? What goes on? What takes place before the bell rings?
Well, it's all about preparation, and I think during our interview over at Wild Card, we've kind of talked about it a little bit. You can't just hope for the best. You have to prepare for the worst. And a lot
very
of
well
times,
said.
I'm watching the fight from a different perspective. I'm not necessarily watching, what kind of game plan is going on. I'll leave that to the head trainers. There are teams that I work with because of my training background. I do offer some advice to the trainer, just kind of a second pair of eyes. My role with Pacquiao, because he's got, Freddie, he's got Boo Boy, and he's got Justin Fortune, will be strictly to adhere and take care of his face. But you're watching for little flare-ups on a fighter's face. Maybe they've had past traumas. Maybe they've had past cuts. They have scar tissue. You start to look at areas that maybe there's going to be some potential swelling. And the biggest mistake that I see being made by a lot of people today is they don't address swelling quick enough. They wait till it becomes a problem. And by the time it becomes a problem, you're going to be in trouble depending on how long the fight, when it occurs during the fight, and how long the fight's going to go. Because there's nothing worse than having to work a cut for 9-10 rounds. You can get by sometimes if you get it in the later rounds. But if you got a guy like Sean Porter or Sergey Lipinets and Vargas, in some of the world title fights that I've worked with them, they were cut in the second, third round. And those fights all went the distance.
So every round, you're ready to go to work. Every round. Now, okay, you have a job to do, but also the fighter has a job to do as head movement, protect him. But at the same time, every second that's given to him is because of you, because of the work in the corner. I got another follow-up question by Macho Camacho. He just continues to blow me up. Now, now this is a good question. This is a real question. It's, have you ever, and I'm gonna quote what he wrote, have you ever failed as a cut man? Has a fight ever been stopped due to blood, due to cuts that was just unstoppable?
No, but I did have one fight, and I'm not going to mention the fighter's name, where he was kind of looking to get out of the fight, and he complained that the cut was bothering him, although the cut was under control.
Okay.
The initial reaction from people lots of times is, the blame game. And like in anything, there's the blame game. And, I'm always the hardest critic of my own work.
So is it safe to say the cut was in his heart?
Yeah, I don't, like I said, he's the one in there risking his life.
Yeah, I know. I'm
never going to talk bad. I'm never going to talk bad about that. But I think I kind of got a bad rap on that one, but I kind of kept it behind closed doors, and I didn't say anything because I don't like the stuff that happens within a team. You don't like it to become public, because now with social media, everybody has an opinion, and a lot of these opinions aren't really qualified to give an expert opinion.
Yeah.
So I kind of sucked it up. The fighter and I over the years have we've talked, and and we're on good terms. He's not fighting anymore. He had a good career, but it's just one of those things in the heat of battle. But I'm going to knock on wood, because I don't want to jinx myself, Richard.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx myself, but I just try to go out there and do a good, high quality work each and every fight, whether a fighter is fighting in a local club show for 4 rounds, or he's going to be seen by millions of people, on a pay-per-view, on the big stage in Vegas. I just try to give them the same consistent quality work. And here's the other thing.
Yes, sir.
And I've seen fights stop, fights stopped by cuts. Sometimes it's not the cut man's fault. I had it's funny. I talked to Carlos Vargas one time, and he's, we were talking about this very subject, and he was like, if a fighter is bleeding that much, and he keeps coming back with multiple traumas, at some point, maybe that fight does need to be stopped for their own safety, not for the well-being of the trainer or the cut man and their reputations. But in the end, sometimes you gotta protect the fighter from himself.
You know, a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand that statement. And let me go back a little bit, because somebody once asked me, somebody once told me, they said, well, Richard, you don't know anything about boxing. Richard, you don't know anything about MMA. So how can you comment on that? You've never ever been in a professional ring. You've never ever been in a professional cage. And I said, you know what? You're wrong. Because I've been in a professional ring and I've been in a professional cage. Now, I had a microphone in my hand as your ring announcer, your cage announcer, but then nevertheless, I stepped through the ropes and through the cage. So that's just a little jab back when people have jabbed at me. I just had to say that because the door was open for that, and that's real talk right here. You got to remember.
Well, here's the thing. Your eyes don't lie. Your eyes don't lie. I'm not a mathematician, but I know when I give the person at the grocery store $100 and I only go in there to buy $20 worth of stuff, I know that I'm supposed to get $80 back.
Absolutely.
And if you look at things objectively and without emotion, and you look for them for the facts, I'm a homicide detective. I deal in facts. I don't deal in supposition, innuendo, rumor. I deal in one thing: facts. There's a whole saying we have as homicide detectives is that evidence doesn't lie. People do. And I honestly try to go by that. And the other thing is, remember this, and tell Macho Camacho there in New York, because he sounds like he knows his stuff. And if he's actually Macho Camacho Jr., the real Macho Camacho Jr., much respect to him, because I was a big fan of not only him but his dad, is that the truth never changes. Always remember that. The truth never changes.
Okay, he just responded. Okay, I am the real Macho Camacho Jr. Now, I need you to answer this. He said, ask him this. What time is it?
It's macho time, baby.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. Give me the thumbs up. Exactly. There you go. It's macho time.
Hey, let him know, man, I'm going to be at Barclays Center in Brooklyn in New York, August 3rd with WBA interim light heavyweight champion, former Olympian Marcus Brown. He's defending his title against Jean Pascal. I will be there in Brooklyn. Tell him to hit me up. I go a long way back in knowing his dad. His dad was a couple years older than me, but in the 80s, man, it was macho time. When you look at some of the great Puerto Rican fighters that ever lived, you got Hector Macho Camacho. I mean, you got Edwin Rosario. Obviously, you got Felix Trinidad. You got Miguel
Wilfredo Gomez.
Wilfredo Gomez.
Yes.
The bazooka ran into you-know-who.
Yeah.
The greatest featherweight.
That's right. Salvador Sanchez, baby. Salvador Sanchez, baby. Salvador, exactly.
And I still remember that fight. And when you look,
he beat Danny Little Red Lopez not once but twice.
Yes, and when you look at Wilfredo Gomez's face, like my dad said, it looked like he got stung. It looked like he got stung by a hive of bumblebees.
Yeah, he did. Yes, that was awesome. Yes, exactly. You're taking it way back. And you know what? I'll let him know. He said yes. It's still macho time, and he will hook you up. Okay, yeah, that's him. Actually, he was a guest on the show. Actually, he was in Fresno for a little while. And if you talk to him, most fighters sometimes they don't follow the sweet science. They don't follow the sport. But Macho Camacho, I will say this, Macho Camacho Jr. is a very intelligent fighter when it comes to the history of boxing, today's boxing, and how it changed. He can tell you how they're going to win and what to look out for. Now, just listening to him, I was thinking, okay, well, that's good during that fight. But this is every single matchup that I bring up to him. And I'm thinking, you're sitting down. You need to share that expertise with somebody. You need to grab a microphone, or you need to write with somebody, or get a job with Fox or PBC, any of the above. And now, see, I say that because I am not a hater. Now, if I was, I don't want him in the loop of competition, but the man's knowledge is second to none. So I'll give you his phone number after the show, and you guys could probably chop it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean he's still fighting. He's had over 60 fights. I believe his dad had 50 or 60 fights. I definitely know who he is. And I believe Hector had him when he was very, very young, and I think Hector was still I want to say was still a boy when he had him. So it's in his blood. I mean, he grew up around this. For somebody in my age in the early 50s, that golden era of boxing in the late 70s and the early 80s. I mean, he had a front row seat that it was literally flowing through his veins.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. Hey, hold that thought. We're going to take a commercial break. We're coming right back. Rich Ortiz, your host of The Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. We're simply knocking out the competition, and we're going to knock out these commercials. We'll be coming right back with our guest, Mike Rodriguez, the cut man who will be handling the cut, the corner, and everything for Manny Pacquiao's big fight this Saturday, MGM Grand. Stand by. We'll be coming right back.
I'm Bob Arum.
Hi, I'm Robert Garcia, and I'm with the Fighter's Voice.
The only radio show knocking out the competition. Fighter's Voice Radio Show.
I'm Bob Arum, and I'm with the Fighter's Voice.
My name is Andre Ward.
Knocking out the competition. Fighter's Voice. The Fighter's Voice.
Hey, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Rich Ortiz here with The Fighter's Voice, your host with the most. And tonight's guest is the one, the only Mr. Mike Rodriguez, who will have full responsibility of the Senator's well-being every time he comes back to the corner, and that's Manny Pacquiao as he take on Keith one-time Thurman, MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I believe this event is sold out, but you can order it on pay-per-view. You can be a supporter. You can watch for yourself, and I want your take on who's going to win the fight. So I've never asked anybody who's going to win the fight that's working the corner because, of course, they're going to say they're a fighter. But Mike Rodriguez, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I'm going to ask you who's going to win, why they're going to win, and how they're going to win. Right now, you're on the hot seat.
Another hot seat.
Another hot seat, my man.
Even if I wasn't working the fight, I was going to go with Manny Pacquiao. And then having had a chance to see him in camp and just seeing the motivation he has, I mean, he looks very spry. He looks very youthful. His speed, his angles. You got Keith Thurman. He's one time, but you got Manny Pacquiao. You heard it here first. He's all time.
That's right. That's right.
I think Manny is going to take Keith into deep waters in those later rounds. And let me just clarify something. I know Keith Thurman. I know his trainer and his cut man.
Yeah.
I've met his parents. He's a quality guy. He's a very stand-up guy. He's a champion, and this is what you want. And I know if Macho Camacho Jr. is listening, his dad fought Julio Cesar Chavez. He fought Sugar Ray Leonard. He fought
Roberto Duran.
He fought Felix Trinidad. I mean, he fought Greg Haugen.
Oscar De La Hoya.
Oscar De La Hoya. So when you got champions that are fighting each other, it's going to be nip and tuck. It ain't going to be easy for either guy. But I think Manny's speed, his experience, and I think the biggest thing is his will to win is going to carry him over to be victorious on Saturday night.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's not motivated, he sure in the hell is motivated after all these derogatory statements, these off-the-wall statements, these cross-the-line statements. I don't understand why a fighter really does that. I'm not in his boots. I don't have the gloves laced up, especially when the fight's already set. The money's already guaranteed. It's going to sell out. But crossing the line, hey, whatever motivates you to try to attempt to get into a fighter's, you got to remember, we're talking to a seasoned veteran, an 8-time world champion. You think you're going to say something or show him something new that he hasn't been there or done that? My man, but but you
have to understand, this is usually the first time that particular fighter's had this close a contact with any individual, and everybody's kind of picking and prodding to see what's going to ruffle feathers or whatever to try to get some kind of advantage. And here's the beautiful thing. 99 times out of 100, regardless of what's done, regardless of what's said, as soon as that final bell rings, they shake hands, they hug each other, and there's a mutual respect.
Absolutely.
In life in general, if you got beef with somebody, as soon as, whether it's a street fight, you go to the gym, as soon as you square up with somebody and you go head up, toe to toe, you can't help but not have a mutual respect for that
Absolutely.
person.
Exactly.
And a lot of times that relationship and that bond, something that you share forever, will always be forged, and hopefully there's an admiration and a respect, and both fighters shake hands, and may the best man win.
Exactly. Hey, I was there with you Media Day. It was crazy. Do we get some clips of that when we can? I mean, talk to us about Media Day. It was absolutely crazy. I got to see two things that stuck in my head. One, I got to see Sean Gibbons at work as a true professional, as a true PR, as a true matchmaker, as a true I am my brother's keeper. Yes, promoter. I am my brother's keeper. to see the man in action, it was just, I was taken back, and I said, that is a true professional taking steps left and right. Also, Marie at Wildcard Gym, somebody has to be the gatekeeper. Somebody has to let you know what time it is. And just to watch them work, to me, I was taken back. I've watched the fighters. I've been around boxing. I've been around promotions. I've been around big events. But I got a high on watching these folks work. Class
Well,
act
you know
all the
what?
way.
You just mentioned it. You mentioned Freddie at the wild card. You mentioned
Yes.
Marie. And you mentioned Sean Gibbons.
Yes.
Those three individuals have the most to do with me being in the position that I am right now to work with Manny Pacquiao. I go back a long way with Freddie to his original gym, the Outlaw Gym in Hollywood, that he partnered up with actor Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
When I had the meeting with Freddie and Sean and Manny, Sean looked at Manny and says, "Hey, Freddie and we believe in Mike's work." Sean told him, I've worked with Mike. I've worked against him. He was actually Salito's advisor during that time, but he also hired me to work Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. against Canelo. And then Manny just basically told them, you know what, if you guys believe in him, then so do I. So those three individuals have had a lot to do with me making that plane ride tomorrow to Vegas. And I'm eternally grateful. And the best way that I can say thank you is to do the best job possible so that Manny Pacquiao is in good hands. And I tell people this, I don't take that lightly.
No.
I'm very humbled by the fact that being able to work with an all-time great fighter, a Hall of Famer,
Definitely.
It means a lot to me. It lets me know that hard work does pay off, and that the craft and the things that we do in the corner, are respected.
And, that was one of the questions that I asked you during the interview. I said, has it hit you yet? Have you started to realize yet where you're at? And then I asked you, does it get any bigger than this?
Not really. I mean, he is the only 8-division world champion. 8-division world champion ever.
Yes.
Manny will be my 19th world champion. The most recent title that I won is with Julian J. Rock Williams when he beat Jared Hurd. I've worked with Julian and his trainer, Stephen Edwards, for almost 10 years since Julian was like 2-0. That was very gratifying for me to go into Hurd's hometown, on national television and to do his thing and to see a dream come true. Because after he lost the Charlo fight, there were a lot of naysayers and people saying that he didn't have what it takes. And we knew that he did, the way he was, the way the fight ended. And it really shut a lot of people up, and it really changed the dialogue and the conversation about fighters that have a loss, and that just because a fighter has one loss doesn't mean that they're all done. And Manny Pacquiao is a true testament to that, because even before he won the world title, he had a loss or two, and he's had a few bumps in the road. But when you look at the who's who of who he's been in with, I mean, it's just a testament to his greatness. And when you say greatness, sometimes we put that on people a little sooner and anoint them a little sooner than we should. Oh, this person's the next best thing. You know what? Manny Pacquiao's been one of the best things in boxing, for the last 15 years. And I think we need to applaud that, salute it, and appreciate it. And also, when you look at the longevity that him and Freddie Roach has had, and you look at how long Justin Fortune has worked with them, and then you look with Boo Boy, and you look what Sean Gibbons does with Manny Pacquiao Promotions, along with his partner, Joe, that works with Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
He has a great, solid team, and that's the biggest thing that I'm excited about. When I say about getting excited, I try not to focus on the event. I try to focus on what my job is and doing the best job that I can.
You know what? Let's talk about Viva, Sean. Let's talk about Viva, Woody. Let's talk about Viva Las Vegas. Sean Gibbons, the man is a class act. Plain and simple, period. I mean, to be in a position that he's in and be down to earth and to give back by making the time either to give you, send you a video, send you a picture, to acknowledge your existence. When you got nothing but Mercedes-Benz Corvettes and all these freaking Italian suits, you can show up with a shirt and a hat and the man will sit down, break bread with you, smile with you, and make you feel like $1 million. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about Sean Gibbons. He is definitely a class act.
That's the beautiful thing. That's not only with Sean. That's just the beautiful thing about boxing. What other sport can you literally walk into a gym and see world champions train? You can't. When Kobe was playing, you couldn't go to the Lakers practice.
No.
I doubt you could have went to Michael Jordan's practice and watch him shoot jumpers. You can't go to the Patriots practice and watch.
Couldn't go to Tiger Woods' backyard either.
No, boxing is the fighters are accessible because they love their fans. You go see an ex-fighter that shows up to fights, whether it's Roberto Duran, whether it's De La Hoya, whether it's Felix Trinidad. Jerry Cooney has a very good radio show on Sirius XM with former Commissioner Randy Gordon that I was a guest on, and they make their rounds and they're very popular.
Had that beautiful left hook.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hitman Hearns. I mean, these guys love their fans.
The Motor City Cobra, a.k.a. the Hitman, Tommy the Hitman Hearns, started at 147. Yep.
Tommy Hearns fight when he was first coming up. I was a young teenager.
Yeah.
And because I was tall and skinny,
August 2nd, 1980, Pepino Cuevas, that second round. He kept his left hand out there, came across that right hand. Pepino did a dance. Boom, hit him with another right, and the rest was history.
Yeah, my cousins to this day, because I was tall and skinny like that, they still call me the Hitman. So Tommy Hearns will always be near and dear to my heart.
Oh, you know what? My favorite all-time fighter was Tommy the Hitman Hearns. Still is. Tommy the Hitman Hearns. I mean,
well, when you talk about my all-time fighters, my first all-time fighter is Alexis Arguello.
Oh, yes.
He was probably, to me, the greatest junior lightweight ever. He was a pinpoint puncher.
Class act, too.
And every combination that he threw, there was usually a vicious uppercut to the body. Roberto Duran
had those velvet shorts on to the
Roberto
thigh.
Duran, I'm gonna tell you a story if you have time.
Absolutely. This is the fighter's voice. This is your voice.
And it's always a thumbs up for Richie, right? And I've been doing that thumbs up, man. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. You let me into the thumbs up for Richie family, and that will forever be near and dear to my heart. I traveled to Fantasy Springs Casino for some fights that were going to be on a Friday night, but I had just worked some MMA fights for Bellator.
Yeah.
And I got to the casino. I got to the hotel and casino about 11:45, almost midnight. And who's pulling up, getting dropped off from the airport because he's going to be a special guest for the fights the following night on Friday. But the legendary Manos de Piedras, Roberto Duran. For me, it was like seeing Mickey Mantle. It was like seeing Joe Montana. And there he is checking in when I'm checking in. And he asked the clerk there at the hotel if there was anything to eat. He was craving a hamburger. And they said, you know what? Unfortunately, everything's closed because it's almost about midnight.
Yeah.
I looked over Roberto Duran, and my Spanish is about as good as his English. And I asked him if he was hungry, and he said,
about as good as mine then.
And I asked him in Spanish, what do you want to eat? And he said he wanted to eat a hamburger. I told him that I had my car. We walked out to the parking lot. This is a true story. And Roberto Duran got in the passenger seat, and Roberto Duran and I went to In-N-Out Burger. And there I am about 12:15 at night, because everybody knows that In-N-Out Burger they close at 1, and there's always a long line. And we got our hamburgers, and there I am in the car at 1 in the morning with one of my idols, a true legend, probably the greatest lightweight that ever lived, and if I can cuss a little bit, my dad said, one of the baddest MFers to ever shit through a hide. I don't know how that directly translates, but my dad would say he's one of the baddest MFers to ever shit through a hide, which means he's probably a pretty bad dude.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to call so many people and like do a selfie and say, I'm here with Roberto Duran. But I sat there and we ate 2 cheeseburgers each, and we drove back to the hotel.
Absorbed it all up.
And to this day, whenever I see him, he always gives me a hug. And I had a chance to see him in Dallas when Mikey Garcia fought Errol Spence, because I had Chris Arreola on the pay-per-view, and he was there at the hotel. And we laughed about that, and I did get a picture with him then. But those are just the kind of things in boxing that you may not get in any other sport.
No. You know, Mike Tyson called him his all-time great. We had Lee Samuels, Hall of Famer Lee Samuels from Top Rank Boxing. He was on the show, and he said, "Richard."
Lee Samuels recently inducted in the International
absolutely. And actually, he said, "Richard, pick me up at my hotel." So that was like my Roberto Duran story as we drove down here, because he's picking my brain. He's asking me questions that he already knows the answer to. He just wants to make sure I am who I say I am. Nevertheless, he said, "Richard, Roberto Duran is the meanest son of a bitch that I've ever been around. Classy as you know what once he comes out of the ring, unless you're going to fight him."
Absolutely. I mean, that first Leonard fight that they fought in Montreal, I think, as great as Leonard was, I think a lot of it had to do that he was in Leonard's head.
That second round.
A lot of comments.
Yeah.
And he was, but you know what? He could back him up. And when you look at legendary fights, for me growing up, you're thinking of Thrilla and Manila, with Ali and Frazier. You're thinking of Leonard Hearns. You're thinking of Leonard Duran. And, and I look back at some of these fighters like Wilfred Benitez and Salvador Sanchez and Lupe Pintor, and guys like Bobby Chacon, guys that I grew up watching, guys that I grew up idolizing. But I would be remiss if I didn't remember that I just saw something on Twitter about him, and he was just a fabulous fighter, probably the biggest heart of any fighter that I've ever met was Matthew Saad Muhammad, the former light heavyweight champion.
Matthew Saad Muhammad, when he finally lost his bout to Dwight Braxton at the time, and then Dwight Braxton changed his name to Dwight Muhammad Kwawi on ABC.
Yes.
Because Matthew Saad Muhammad always had this reputation of getting knocked down, but coming back and winning the fight.
Absolutely. He's one of Philly's finest.
Yes.
I know when you go back to Philly champions, I know Julian Williams is happy to be part of that lineage, to be proud of that. They named him Matthew Franklin because I believe they found him on Franklin Street. He was abandoned by his mom, and they named him Franklin because he was found on Franklin Street.
My gosh. I mean, these stories that come out of the beautiful, sweet science. I've got to ask you this question. Okay. Roberto Duran in his prime. Julio Cesar Chavez in his prime.
Roberto Duran.
They meet at 140, a catch weight of 145. You being the cut man, who needs your services first?
Well, really, 145 was neither one of them's best weight.
Exactly. We'll go 140. We'll go 140 then.
They were both greatest at lightweight.
Yes, that's very true.
And Roberto Duran, hands down, is the greatest lightweight of all time. Not in the last 20 years, not in the last 40 years. Roberto Duran, the hands of stone from Panama, is the greatest lightweight of all time, and he's one of the top 5 greatest fighters of all time.
And if anybody wants to argue, name a better one.
They can, exactly. If they want to argue about it, they can call me, meet me in Vegas, and we'll go to that ring they have set up at the MGM, and we'll try to sneak on there before security gets a hold of us, and we'll go a couple of rounds.
Hey, there you go. The Fighter's Voice will be there live, and we'll get the exclusive. I got to ask you this right now. You're in your prime right now. Say your career took a different avenue. So your boxing career is where you wanted it to be, is where you dreamed about. You're about to lace them up. You're about to go to a big event. You're in tip-top shape. You're taking on a young monster, a clone of you across from the ring. Who is your cut man in the corner?
Man, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to
you can't plead the fifth, my man.
I'm not pleading the fifth.
You can take on the dream team.
Is I'm going to walk up that first round with Joe Chavez.
Okay.
Carlos Vargas is going to work the second round.
These are good answers.
Ruben Gomez is going to work the third. Miguel Diaz is going to work the fourth.
That's a very educated answer.
And then eventually it's going to be, Stitch Duran and Rudy Hernandez. And then I'm going to throw some of my boys in there, my contemporaries. I'm going to throw in Mike Basil. I'm going to throw in Aaron Navarro. And you know what? Because he's doing a great job, I'm going to let the last round finish off with my son Andrew.
There you go. You want to finish where your heart's at. But somewhere down the line, you got to find the opportunity. We got to give this person an opportunity, a shot. And she's been putting in her work. And I'm going to go to bat for her. And that's the Fighter's Voice co-host with the most, the redhead that wakes the dead, Carol the Cut Woman. There's a picture of her right then and there. She wanted to be in studio so bad. She's on assignment. When she found out that I went to Wild Card on me, she was just kicking herself. But I said, look, finish what you started. And one day I will introduce you to her, and I'll let you guys just chop it up forever. I say that because she is breaking through. She's starting from the ground up, working the AMs, working any event in every event. She'll go through a fight, and she says, Richard, I'm glad our fighter won, but I didn't have to work. One day there'll be a headbutt. One day there'll be and I'm not wishing the worst on this combatant, but I want to show the world what I can do.
Absolutely. And I think you have that when you start out. You have that apprehensiveness where you want to be there in the corner. You don't want nothing bad to happen to your fighter, but in order for other fighters and trainers and managers to see what you can do, you have to be able to exhibit your craft and show your talents. And there's a whole saying, talent always reveals itself. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, talent always reveals itself.
I'm going to speak the words of Raul Martinez. He said, Richard, don't worry about these other guys. Don't worry about these pretenders. Don't worry about these copycats because the talented ones are going to survive. And he said, Richard, and I'm, it's rare that I do say a quote or I do say something. He said, Richard, I can put you in a painted Picasso room. We can erase all the paint, and I'm going to put you in a blank room. When I come back, there's going to be another Picasso. Because he believes in me, he believes in what I do. And when I say that, I feel kind of weird talking about it, kind of tapping myself on the shoulder. I'm not. But I'm going on the statement that you made, and I truly believe that. You got to believe. I don't think a fighter wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I hope I win today. Well, it's the same thing with broadcasting. It's the same thing with interviewing people. It's the same thing with ring announcing. It's the same thing with color commentating. I didn't wake up to take second. But I'm learning off all the forefathers ahead of me. I'm learning with speaking to people like you. I'm a sponge to every single thing that you say. When you saw me sitting down and you said, hey, Rich, are you going to get any interviews? And then we got that Freddie interview. I'm sitting down. I'm absorbing. I'm watching. I'm learning. Just like you do when you're on duty as a detective. You sit back and you watch everybody. Because the ones that'll stumble, those are the ones that you know that are not true. The ones that are walking a straight line, you already know, okay, I don't have to look at him twice. But as an officer, you always keep your eyes up and you keep your hands up and protect yourself at all times. So I just wanted to go there with that statement only because the door was open.
And this is anything that you do, whether you're building bridges, you're building skyscrapers, you're a broadcaster, you're a fighter, you're a cut man, you're a cop. I don't care what it is you do. To me, there are two things that you have to have, that you have to live your life by. And I do this each and every single day because I'm blessed for the life that I have and the people that I have surrounding me, my family and friends that support me. Is you have to have passion.
Yes.
You have to have passion, but the passion does not benefit you, anything else in life unless you have one other thing, and that is compassion. You have to have passion and compassion, and I try to live like that every day. Am I a perfect man? God, no. God, no. I have my share of faults, and those that know me will tell you they can write out a list that would take them probably about 2 days. But if you have passion and compassion in your life, and you believe in God, and you have faith in yourself, and most of all, you have to have faith in others. We live in a society now where people are starting to lose faith in each other. And you know what? It just comes from a handshake, a smile, a gesture to make somebody else feel good. I try to talk to, wherever I go, I try to talk to one or two strangers a day. Yeah. And it helps me give a perspective of other people's lives and other people's perspective, because in the end, it all comes down to perspective. I may not ever change how you think or how you feel because of your beliefs and your upbringing, but as long as you respect my perspective, I'm always going to respect yours.
No, that's very well said. And I wish more people in the industry, I wish more people in life in general thought the same way, because life is too short to try to stop somebody else's success. You're wasting negative, and you're filling yourself with negative energy. You don't need that. Express yourself in the only way that you know how is by being yourself. I got another question for you. This is from Luca from Inside the Ropes. He said, ask him, who does he think will get cut first in this fight between Pacquiao and Thurman?
You know, when you have a southpaw like Manny and you have a right-handed orthodox fighter like Keith Thurman, you know, Manny was cut in the Jeff Horn fight. Yeah. Keith really hasn't had any cuts, but if you look at some of his fights with Luis Collazo, you look at a couple of his other fights with Josecito Lopez, he does have a propensity to swell. And with that lefty-righty thing, you always have a tendency to, you know, that there's going to be some head contact. You know, that's one of those things that you really can't predict. It's just it's gonna be dictated by the events that happen in the ring. You know, I'm hoping that neither fighter sustains any trauma, that there's no injuries, they both come out okay, you know, and the best man win. But regardless, I know that Carlos Vargas in Keith Thurman's corner is going to be prepared for anything, and just like I am.
There you go. And that question came all the way from Hayworth. I want to ask you this.
Where?
From Hayworth, California. That was Lukey
I'm
from
an East
Inside
Bay
the
guy.
Ropes.
I grew up in Concord, so what's up, Hayward over there on the East Bay?
Yeah, man. Hey, he's out there doing it, man, and he's a supporter of the Fighter's Voice. And there's all these questions. I'm gonna have to send them to you after the show, and then you can possibly answer them later on.
Absolutely.
The only thing is we got to have you back soon, my man. I mean, because this is great content. I mean, somebody who's been there, done that, and the stories. Well, I love the In-N-Out Burger story. I want to get more in depth in that. What did he say? Did he eat his fries first and then his hamburger? Did he get a Diet Pepsi? Was it a regular Pepsi? I mean, that's the great Hands of Stone Roberto Duran.
Absolutely, and he had a double, like two of them, animal style.
There you go.
We asked for extra fries, and he had a large soda, and all you could hear was just two guys in there that were very hungry after a long day.
I heard that, man, but that's some great content right now, man. Right now, the mic is yours. Anybody special you want to give a shout out to? Anybody special you want to thank? Anybody special you want to wish happy feelings towards? Right now, the mic is yours.
No, I'm blessed to do what I love to do. I get to do a job through my career that I work very hard for, that I get to do as a homicide detective. It's not that I have any kind of affinity or morbid obsession with dead people, but when you work as a police officer, the ultimate job is to be a homicide detective. I work for the LA County Sheriff's Department. We are considered the best homicide unit in the world. It's an elite unit. I'm very proud of that. To work at a high level in boxing, to turn something that I did as a very young man throughout my teenage years, early adult life. I didn't make my mark as a fighter. I had a lot of regret about that. But hopefully I'm making my mark in the sport, as a cut man, helping train guys and being an ambassador for the sport. And I think that's the biggest thing that I take the most pride in, that I'm an ambassador for the sport, and that I've learned a craft that I respect and that I'm humbled by, and that I'm able to surround myself with people that are like-minded, and they have that same passion. They have that same compassion for others. And what's better than doing what you love with the ones you love the most? And that's the only best way I can put it.
Those are very strong closing words, my man. I mean, it was a pleasure meeting you, talking to you. I can't wait to watch you work Saturday. I hope things work out, and I'll see you soon I'll see you in Las Vegas this Saturday. Nevertheless, I want to take this time. I want to thank Marie from Wildcard Gym. I want to thank Freddie Roach from Wildcard Gym. I want to thank the Cutman Mike Rodriguez for coming on to the show, introducing himself, and making me feel like, Richard, there is hope. Making me feel like, Richard, you know what? It's just a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. And I want to thank Sean Gibbons, even Brandon Gibbons. I mean, the whole family is great upbringing. And if I miss somebody, I apologize. I want to thank the Fighter's Voice, because they put me in this platform. That's KP, producer. That's Shelly, Hollis in Stockton, California. We're bringing the Fighter's Voice 2.0 NINE, Stockton style. That's Carol the Cutwoman, and the co-host with the most, the UFC veteran, the Apache Kid, Mr. Escovedo. We got a strong Fighter's Voice team here, man, just like you got a strong team in Team Senator Pacquiao. Watching you kick back and watch everything that was taking place. When I say kick back, because I noticed that your eyes were just roaming from left to right at Media Day, but you were absorbing everything. And then when you finally came down to the ground level where all the interview was going, and I saw Marie, she said, hey, you're being requested upstairs for an interview. Yes, your life has changed. Yes, you are blessed. Yes, God is giving you not one dream, but two dreams, but three. That's having your son do the same craft that you do. You save lives when you go to work every day as a homicide field. You also save fighters' lives when they're in the corner. Their career is in your hands. Real quick, this last question, how does that make you feel, wearing two different hats? Are they the same? When do you put it on and when do you turn it off? And how do the two work together, from being a homicide detective and a cutman?
That's a good question, and I hope that being good at one helps me be good at the other.
There you are, man.
As I take things that my own fight experience, my own life experience, that doing good at one has prepared me for the other. Having been in very traumatic situations on the street, and now being entrusted to work with a fighter, and they put their faith basically in my hands, to get them through the fight. And it's a team effort. It's never just about, hey, Mike did this. It's the trainer, it's the assistant trainer, and most of all, let's not forget this. It's about the fighter. Because not only do they have a say in this, and like you said, I think it's very apropos, the fighter has a voice.
Yes, he
so
does.
we're gonna end on that with thumbs up to the fighter's voice,
all day.
Thumbs up to the fighters and the great teams that I work with, and most of all, we're gonna end this, man, thumbs up for Richie, because that's something I'm gonna be a part of now forever.
Thank you. That's a class act. Hey, stay on the line after we end right here. I want to thank all the viewers, the fans, for all the questions, all the questionnaire. Don't forget to subscribe to www.youtube.com/thefightersvoice. Remember, every fighter has a voice, and so do you. As always, I dedicate every show, every air that I breathe, every emotion, every tear, every happiness, every smile, every breath that comes out of my mouth. It's a wrap here, Fresno, California. Thumbs up for Richie.
Never down for the count. It's just another wrap. Thanks for listening to the Fighter's Voice Radio Show. Catch us again next week. Same when, same how. And always stay connected to the Fighter's Voice on social media. So, on behalf of Richard Ortiz, Cole Escovedo, our special guests, and the whole crew right here at the Fighter's Voice Radio Show, saying see ya next week, right here on the Fighter's Voice.